When you pick up a new smartphone, there's always a kind of checklist, isn't there? Screen quality, performance, battery life, the design. But nothing seems to draw more competitive fire than the camera. This is really where these billion-dollar companies throw down. They're pushing the boundaries of physics, of AI. Our mission today, well, it isn't just to read off some rankings. We want to figure out the why. We've got, I think, the most rigorous, data-driven sources out there to answer a pretty simple question for 2025. Who is the absolute, undisputed champion of smartphone photography right now? And maybe more importantly, how did they actually win?
Yeah, and to cut through all the marketing hype, all the noise, we went straight to, well, the industry gold standard, DxO mark. They aren't just, taking a few snaps and giving opinions. They really are the global reference in camera testing.
Yeah.
And their methodology. That's where the real knowledge lies. We're talking about testing over 3,000 photos and videos for each device. They put them through highly controlled lab conditions, and then they stress test them out in the real world. They measure these critical technical metrics: exposure accuracy, color realism, focus speed, and, really importantly, how well a phone handles image noise when the lights go down.
Exactly. It's a proper gauntlet. And what becomes really clear as we look at this top 10 list is that the battle for camera supremacy, it's not just about who has the most megapixels anymore. Not at all. It feels more like a philosophical war, fought between, say, superior processing, that's the software side, and superior hardware engineering, the physics side.
That's a great way to put it.
So we're going to use that lens, that sort of AI versus physics debate as we climb up these rankings. We'll start at number 10, work our way up to the clear winner, and detail the specific strengths that really separate these devices.
Okay, let's dive in. Kicking off our top 10, at rank 10 with 158 points, we have the Honor Magic 6 Pro. And this is actually an excellent place to start because it really represents balance.
Right, kicking off the list. The Honor's key selling point. It isn't like overwhelming dominance in one area, but more about intelligent utility. The source material highlights its strength in fast focus. Specifically, it excels in group photography. And that's a genuine technical challenge, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about trying to quickly focus on maybe a dozen faces, all scattered across different depths, different lighting, different skin tones. That needs serious computational speed.
Yeah.
And the Honor nails that. Plus, it intelligently applies smart filters based on specific weather conditions. So for anyone needing a reliably quick, good value camera for, daily family life, social stuff, this balance of price and performance is pretty fantastic.
Okay. Moving up just one spot to rank 9, scoring 159 points, we find the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. Now, this device immediately stepped into one of the trickiest technical areas, dynamic range.
Dynamic range capabilities are a huge factor in getting a high score. For anyone listening, dynamic range is basically the camera's ability to capture details correctly in the brightest parts of a scene and the darkest parts of the same scene, all at the same time.
Right. So like if you're trying to photograph someone standing in shadow, but there's a really bright sunny window right behind them.
Exactly that scenario. Most cameras will either blow out the highlights, that bright window becomes just white, or they crush the shadows, losing all the detail on the person. The Xiaomi manages this incredibly well. It maintains accurate colors and, crucially, performs exceptionally well when the light drops. That low light performance is a key reason it edged out the Honor.
Makes sense. Okay, next up, rank 8, 160 points. And here we see a company that really, you could say, pioneered the whole software over physics approach. The Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. This is where we properly introduce that AI narrative into the rankings.
Yeah, what's fascinating about Google is that their hardware often looks, well, deceptively simple on paper, but the real magic happens after you press the shutter. Their strength is almost entirely in artificial intelligence, in computational photography. The AI processing here gets praised for delivering incredibly natural, realistic colors, and it handles those tricky backlighting situations really effectively.
So it's kind of the camera for everyone, isn't it? The sources suggest it strikes an ideal balance for both the beginner photographer and maybe the professional user, just shooting daily stuff. It sort of smooths out the rough edges of amateur shooting using clever software corrections.
That's right. It really democratizes good photography. It's making these complex exposure and color decisions instantly. So you don't have to. It doesn't need a massive sensor to compete at this level. It just needs a brilliant chip to process the data it gets.
And before we leave this first tier, at rank 7, scoring 161 points, we've got the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Despite all this fierce competition, the iPhone legacy, particularly in video and stills, it remains a benchmark, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The iPhone's strength is still that seamless professional performance, especially for video. It's just reliable. It features advanced HDR support, so richer colors, better highlights. But the real non-negotiable factor, the thing that keeps it right up here, is the optical stabilization.
Okay, let's pause on stabilization for a second. Why is that so crucial?
Right, so optical stabilization, or OIS, that's the physical movement of the lens or the sensor inside the phone to counteract your shaky hands. It's what gives you that smooth, professional, almost cinematic look, even if you're just walking around shooting handheld. And we see stabilization mentioned by almost every top contender here. It confirms that if you want a high rank, especially for video, you must physically keep that image stable.
Got it. Okay, let's unpack this midfield mastery then. We're moving into the segment where the real giants start tying for position. We hit rank 5, and immediately there's a tie at 163 points. But interestingly, they got this identical score through totally different philosophies.
Yeah, this comparison is gold for understanding the market right now. Sharing that number 5 spot, first, is the Huawei Pura 7 Ultra. Now, Huawei has heavily invested in its own proprietary hardware advanced sensors, unique lenses to achieve two main things: incredibly vivid colors and exceptionally fine details. They are really pushing the hardware envelope.
So if you look at a photo from the Pura 7 Ultra, it's likely going to look quite dramatic, vibrant, maybe a little stylized, but packed with information, with detail.
Precisely. They're aiming for that immediate visual pop. And again, that excellent optical stabilization is specifically cited, especially effective when the photographer or the subject is moving around.
Okay, now contrast that hardware-driven vividness with its tie partner, the Google Pixel 10 Pro XL. The Pixel series has now had another year of software refinement. How did the second-gen Pixel manage to pull equal with Huawei's pure hardware strategy?
Well, the Pixel 10 Pro XL focuses heavily on optimization. It's about iterative software updates, further AI refinement. Our sources credit these new AI improvements for its superior capture of even finer details in low light compared to its predecessor, the 9 Pro XL. It really proves that software is constantly working to close the gap on raw sensor performance. And furthermore, it truly shines in two specific, very technical areas. It's considered maybe the best option on this whole list for large-scale landscapes and for creating subtle, really nuanced portraits. That's thanks to its depth mapping and color science.
Wow, that's a fascinating synthesis right there. You have hardware power aiming for visual punch at 163 points, and then you have software finesse aiming for natural realism and nuance, also landing at 163. The fact they hit the exact same score tells us that both philosophies are, well, equally valid ways to get world-class results right now.
Absolutely. It's a testament to both approaches.
Okay, moving on to rank 4. Here we encounter what seems like a dynamic specialist. The Vivo X200 Ultra, it jumps ahead with a pretty decisive 167 points. That's a massive 4-point leap from that tie at 5. What did Vivo do to separate itself so clearly?
Vivo seems to have focused on specialization and speed. They didn't necessarily try to be the absolute best at everything.
Yeah.
They targeted specific creative tasks and just nailed them. They engineered a superb wide-angle lens for landscapes that manages to avoid the distortion you typically find on those ultra-wide shots. And they offer a suite of genuinely creative portrait effects.
Interesting.
But the key technical factor, the thing that probably earns that 167 score, is speed. It's highly praised for its extremely fast focus in dynamic shooting situations. So if you're trying to capture, say, a dog running towards you or kids playing, the Vivo locks focus instantly and reliably. That makes it the champion of high-speed capture on this list.
So the Vivo proves that maybe strategic specialization can beat more generalized high scores sometimes.
Okay, now we arrive at the apex, the final 3 spots. This is defining the absolute best of 2025. And this is where that physics advantage, the hardware, starts to really show its teeth, doesn't it? We hit another crucial tie, this time at rank 2, both scoring an impressive 168 points.
Right at the top. Our first contender here is the Oppo Find X8 Ultra. The sources are actually calling this the surprise of the year. And that seems to be mostly due to its value proposition. It somehow manages to balance a highly competitive price point with genuinely high-end performance.
Okay, if it offers that high performance without completely breaking the bank, where did Oppo specifically focus their engineering budget? What are its strengths?
They seem to have focused on 2 key areas, zoom and color. Its specific strengths are clearly called out: superior optical zoom, which lets you magnify subjects without losing detail, unlike digital zoom, which is basically just cropping, and incredibly vivid, rich colors. It provides that premium look, maybe without the absolute premium price tag of some rivals. But if it's that good, why isn't it scoring, say, 175? Where are the potential technical compromises that keep it just shy of the absolute top spot?
It's likely in those more nuanced areas where, say, the Pixel excels like capturing the absolute finest details in very low light, or perhaps the sustained video performance over really long shoots. While it offers superior optical zoom, well, the Pure 80, which we'll get to, is going to show us what happens when you push that hardware envelope even further.
Right, and sharing that second spot, standing toe-to-toe with the price-competitive Oppo, is the iPhone 17 Pro, also at 168 points.
Yeah, and this is the perfect contrast, isn't it?
Huh.
If the Oppo emphasizes vividness and that high optical reach, the iPhone plays a different game entirely: consistency and realism. The iPhone 17 Pro's key strength, according to the sources, is superior color realism when shooting both video and photos. It wants accuracy above everything else. That makes it the preferred tool for creators who need their content to look exactly as their eyes see it, without heavy processing altering the look.
Ah, so that's the difference between a photo that looks spectacular straight out of the phone, like the Oppo maybe, and a photo that provides a perfect neutral base for professional editing later, like the iPhone.
Exactly. That's a great way to think about it. And the fact that two completely different philosophies, price-conscious, vivid zoom versus premium color-accurate stabilization landed on the exact same score.
Yeah.
It just proves how incredibly mature and competitive this smartphone camera market is right now.
Okay, and finally, we arrive at the undisputed champion, standing alone at rank 1, the Huawei Pura 80 Ultra, scoring a massive 175 points.
Just look at that gap, that 7-point margin separating it from the two phones tied for second place. That is a monumental achievement in this ultra-competitive space. It really signals that at this very top tier, right now, pure superior engineering, that hardware advantage is currently unbeatable.
Yeah, a 7-point gap suggests the Pura 80 Ultra isn't just slightly better. It feels like it's playing a fundamentally different game. So let's dig into the technical factors. What specific physics allowed the Pura 80 Ultra to leap so far ahead of everyone, including those two really strong contenders tied just below it?
It really comes down to sensor physics. The Pure 80 boasts a significantly wider sensor area than its competitors. You can think of the sensor like a bucket catching raindrops light in this analogy. A wider bucket simply catches more rain faster. So this wider sensor area directly leads to dramatically higher light absorption capabilities. And what that means is cleaner photos in low light without needing heavy AI correction afterwards. It means better natural depth of field, that beautiful separation you get between the sharp subject and the blurred background. And faster shutter speeds are possible too. You combine that raw light gathering power with a large optical zoom and Huawei's superior internal image processing. Well, you have a camera system that is just technically ahead of the curve right now. It's winning on sheer power and the ability to gather light data that others simply cannot.
That distinction feels crucial. The Pura 80 Ultra didn't necessarily win just by having the absolute cleverest algorithm. It won by providing its algorithm with the cleanest, largest amount of raw data to work with in the first place.
That's really the core lesson from these 2025 rankings, I think. Physics provides the foundation, the raw potential, and then the superior processing builds the house on top of that foundation. But you need the strong foundation first.
So, okay, let's synthesize this. What does it all mean when we look at the trends across these top 10 rankings? What are the common threads that define a winning smartphone camera here in 2025?
Well, it seems the camera battle is fundamentally being won on three main fronts. First, there's superior computational photography, really championed by Google, which makes up for hardware limitations with brilliant software. Second, there's that advanced stabilization and overall video performance, which keeps players like iPhone and Huawei very competitive, especially for professional uses. And third, there are those major hardware advantages, specifically sensor size and optical zoom. And that's what gave the decisive edge to the Pure 80 Ultra this time around.
Right. And this gives you, the listener, a clearer framework for evaluating your next smartphone choice, doesn't it? If you prioritize ease of use, that point-and-shoot reliability, and AI-driven realism, you're probably looking towards a Pixel. If you absolutely need consistent, professional-looking video performance and top-tier stabilization, you might lean towards an iPhone. If, however, you value pure, unfiltered hardware superiority, the ability to capture massive amounts of light for demanding professional stills, then the Huawei Pura 80 Ultra is clearly your target.
Exactly.
So before we wrap up, maybe take a moment just to consider where your own phone's camera falls within these kinds of categories. Does it crush the dynamic range but maybe struggle a bit in low light? Does it stabilize video beautifully but lack any real optical zoom? Understanding these technical metrics, these different strengths, allows you to stop seeing camera performance as just a single number and start seeing it as a series of specific capabilities and trade-offs.
It's truly amazing how quickly these devices are pushing the boundaries year after year. And that massive 7-point gap the Pure 80 Ultra created really underscores that, at least for now, the future of top-tier photography seems tied to these specialized, massive sensors and complex optical systems. Hardware matters.
And that raises a really important question for the future, doesn't it? Which will just leave you to consider. Will the current technical supremacy of specialized large sensors and processing algorithms, the physics approach, continue to dominate? Will manufacturers have to keep competing purely on engineering breakthroughs? Or will AI eventually become so powerful, so sophisticated, that it allows even mid-range hardware to truly compete right at the very top of these rankings? Could software eventually perfectly mimic what a huge sensor does physically?
A fascinating dilemma for the engineers, definitely.
Indeed. Well, thank you for sharing your sources with us and for joining us on this deep dive into the world of 2025 camera supremacy. We'll catch you next time.